Welcome to section 7.3, constructors. In this lesson, you'll learn how to initialize your objects the smart way, right when they are created. We'll dive into constructors, default values, null references, and the powerful this keyword. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to understand what happens when a field isn't initialized, use the default constructor and write your own, pass values into constructors to set fields, and reference object fields with this. Remember our trusty prisoner class. It had a few fields like name, height, and sentence length, and a simple method to simulate thinking. Just like variables, fields store values. These values can be used in calculations, checked for decisions, or updated over time. But what happens if you try to access one before assigning a value? In exercise 1, test this one. Open your present test project and instantiate a new prisoner. Then print the values of each field before assigning anything. What do you see? You'll notice some surprises. Int fields show up as 0, double as 0.0, and string fields, they are none. That's because Java gives default values when you don't explicitly initialize something. Objects can have null values, and a null object points to an empty location in memory. Now here is the danger. What if you try to use a method on a null object? Let's say string test equals null, system.out.println test.length. It will crash. This throws a null pointer exception, and your program dies. Always initialize before using. So, yeah, crashing is bad. Java tries to help by setting defaults, but they're not always what you want. That's why initializing fields on creation is the best practice. Let's look at our prison test setup. Every time we create a prisoner, we're writing 3 or 4 lines to set their name, height, and sentence. For multiple objects, this gets old very fast. Redundant code looks like the one on this slide. We're repeating the same pattern for each object. In exercise 2, let's improve this. In your prisoner class, add a method called setFields that accepts 3 arguments, a string, a double, and an int, and sets the object's fields in one go. That method might look like this. Now we've consolidated 3 lines into one. Now back in your main method, 2 lines in total, much cleaner than before. But we can go further. What if we didn't even need a second line after creating the object? That's where constructors come in. A constructor is a special method that gets called once the moment an object is created. It's like setting up the object's initial state as soon as it comes to life. And you've been using constructors like this whole time. Prisoner P01 equals new prisoner. That calls the default constructor, which Java provides automatically if you don't write your own. You can replace the default constructor with a constructor that you wrote yourself. In exercise 3 part 1, in the prisoner class, add your own constructor. Public prisoner, open curly braces, system.out.println, this is a constructor, close curly braces. Then run your code. You'll see that a message printed as soon as you create an object. In exercise 3 part 2, now make that constructor actually set the fields. Just like you did in setFields, but inside the constructor instead. Once done, you can delete setFields method altogether. Here is a constructor that accepts arguments. Once you write your own constructor, Java stops providing the default one. So make sure to define all the versions you need. Let's compare approaches. Without constructor, 4 lines per object. With setFields method, 2 lines per object. With a constructor, just 1 line. That is the most efficient way. Quick side note on naming parameters. Using short names like N, H, and S is okay for tiny methods, but longer names like name, height, sentence improve readability. But here's the thing. If your parameter names match your field names, there's a conflict. Java will prioritize the local variable, the parameter, over the field. Check this example. Public void set name, string name, system.out println name. Which one does it print? The parameter, not the field. So how do we access the field? Use this keyword. It refers to the current object, just like a remote that controls its own TV. So this dot name assigned name. Now Java knows, hey, the one on the left is the field, the one on the right is the parameter. In exercise 4, update your constructor. Give it parameters named exactly like the fields, name, height, sentence. Then set them like this. This dot name, assign name. This dot height, assign height. This dot sentence, assign sentence. You're now writing professional level constructors. To recap, constructors are named the same as the class, have no return type, not even void, automatically called once when the object is created, can accept arguments to initialize fields. And remember, if you don't write a constructor, Java gives you a default one. If you do write one, the default goes away, unless you define a no argument version yourself. Constructors are a clean, efficient way to make sure your objects are always properly set up.